Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's October 11th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And you can see down here the rally continues. What looked like was going to be a range day or maybe even sell off today, uh, suddenly finds a bottom and rallies strongly straight on up. So the rally continues. We'll see where we looks like. My guess is we're probably going to rally all the way back up and test this breakout area right here. That would be my first target guess. Um, we might even get back inside this range again. Who knows? But this thing just keeps going higher. Um, doesn't seem to matter what the news is or um, what the economy's like. This market wants to go higher. So I think it looks like it bounced on um, the meeting minutes being released today. So I haven't seen those minutes. So I'm guessing there's something in there favorable to further halts on the interest rate hikes or lowering, maybe even lowering of a quarter a point or something in the future. My guess is it's probably more close to being a halt for now, um, because the economy's not doing so well. So they're probably going to go too far in the wrong direction, and then we're probably going to have trouble here with the economy. But we'll see what continues to happen. But that probably would be positive news that would make the market maybe rally. Um, but anyway, let's. Doesn't matter why. That's the big thing. You try to follow the news, and the news will trip you up every time because the market never matches the news. It's my opinion that they write the news at the end of the day to match the market. Um, but anyway, that's another story for another day. But let's flip over to our 2,000 tick chart. Take a look at what the chart looks like, how I saw it, and then we'll go through the trades and wrap the day up. But let's flip over there. Okay, here's a look at our 2,000 tick chart. We started out in this range. We finally broke lower here, and the breakout failed. Uh, Notice that we had this channel working out, and we had a break and a new low, and so this didn't reverse and fail until after that new low. But notice too, you had this first leg down, and then you had this correction here, and then you had another leg down, and we went a little further than that. And so we had two measured legs down, and then we reversed. And look how this thing rallies out of here. It spikes up into this channel, and even within this channel, we had another spike in channel. This thing got really strong here, and we found some momentary resistance up here at the high of the range, but it broke on through there, and it closed almost on its high. So the market's really, and you can see where it rallied here right after about 1 o'clock here. It rallied at the 1 o'clock news, and it took off from there. So obviously the market liked the meeting minutes that were released today. So something in there. My guess it's again it's probably some kind of halt on or uh, halt with the interest rates increases for a bit here because I think the market's getting. I think they've slowed things down considerably, and if they continue to raise interest rates, I think we're just going to get in a worse pickle than we probably already are. But either way, doesn't matter. This is what the market gave us. This is what the chart shows us, and this is what we're going to trade. So that's as plain as it gets. So um, we don't worry about what the news is or rely on it. We want to be aware of it when it comes out, and that's what these blue boxes are. We want to be flat going into anything that's red up here. Uh, you want to be flat. FOMC. Um, I marked this one about a quarter till since it was only meeting notes. Um, so I think you're probably okay with that. Maybe a half hour. You don't. If this was a FOMC meeting um, rate announcement, you want to be flat an hour before. But on these meeting minutes, uh, probably 15 to 30 minutes. Maybe you make this 30 minutes, say 12:30 or so. But you don't have to be out an hour or full hour before that one. So uh, as you can see, it does affect the market, but it was more longer term than really what you'd get with like a rate announcement that might catch the market off guard. But those tend to be really wild, the the FOMC rate announcement dates. But the minutes, not so much. You can see it led to a large rally, but we did get a jump off of it right here, so don't take that the wrong way. But it's just usually not as crazy, and things don't usually slow down into it like they probably would with a rate announcement. So, but let's zoom in here and get a little closer look, go through the trades, and we'll wrap this day. But let's zoom in here and go through the trades on this and wrap this day up. 7 o'clock came right over in here, but there was the 7:30 a.m. news, so there really wasn't anything you could trade early on. You kind of had to sit that out till just after 7:30, and then of course we come back to the trend. You get a close out here, you try to make a new low, and then you make a higher high right here. If it breaks higher right there, that's a second entry long as well. So I like that entry going with the trend. And then of course it pulls back here and fails and turns up. I don't think you wanted to trade that on an engulfing bar. Maybe you wait till this closes, and if you could, you trade it as a failure, which would be an continuation pattern, and so you'd be trading at that under that pretense there. And if it breaks above there, you got a good bit of room back up to that last swing high and back up to where most of your highs are there. So you may take that trade. I marked it green. It looks a little congested there, but you can still see it adhering to that trend line and the EMA as well. Comes back here, but only a first entry, and then it finds resistance up here and turns back down, comes all the way back to the trend line again. You get a bounce right off the trend line right here, but it's still in this down channel. So we need to wait and see if it'll try a retest. It does right here. So you do get a second entry here on a higher low, but it still looks really congested. So I'd want to see it try to go lower one more time, and you see it still holds, and then you get this big bullish bar. Maybe you take that one. I marked it green. You see it went higher and pulls back before it goes higher. So the better trade here would be a higher low, but you don't really get one. But there's some things going for this. You got to understand here, you can probably figure out why there's congestion, because prices are trying to go lower and the trend line is holding it. So that's a good sign. Excuse me, that is a good sign, and that explains why you're getting some congestion. And it actually breaks lower and turns up. So if it breaks higher in there, there's a good chance you're going to go higher, but it does look a little congestion and it could snap back, which it does. Fortunately here, it only snaps back enough to do it what you would expect it to do, and then it takes off. But it could come back and stop you out and then still go where you expect it to go. But with the trend line holding like that, you can reasonably, and notice how it makes a higher or low each time. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'll zoom in a little closer. Each low is higher, and the closes are getting higher each time. So that's a good sign that we're probably going to go higher. Again, if you'd got a nice signal bar here on a higher low, that would have been the better place to enter. But it takes off. You get a correction outside, runs back up to the highs, tested a few times, comes back yet again and tests it again, and finally turns down. This one is tempting. You might trade that on the engulfing bar when it came past this green bar here if you sold right there. I don't think you can sell way down here, and it gaps over anyway and keeps going, so I don't think you'd have probably got in that one. Maybe you sell it right there on the engulfing bar, though. If you did it that way, I probably wouldn't be too worried about it. I'd probably say, okay, that was, it's a little aggressive, but that's a good read. You do have a lower high here than over here, so. And then we just start chopping sideways. I don't see anything short or long that would interest me there till you get this breakout. That one is really tempting. Again, we're in an uptrend here, so you'd expect prices to maybe try to retest the high, but we're also in a range, and the range looks like it's taking precedence. And we've tested this multiple times. Now, I did not mark this. I probably should at least mark it green. And what you'd want to do is it breaks higher and turns down. I like trading that on the engulfing bar because that even gives you a little room back to the EMA in case it bounces like so. It doesn't end up mattering, it goes lower. So you just want to have room to get out. So if there's not room between this low and here, then maybe you let it break lower and you drop a limit order and a couple of ticks back to make sure you got enough room. And then it's really getting risky though. So I marked it green. If it breaks lower here, we'll probably at least come back to this other side. And if it's definitely going to be a range day, we're probably going to head on down, which is what ends up happening. But you don't have that crystal ball, and so you're only be able to base your decision. If you put this at the far right, at the hard right of your chart, then it still looks pretty bullish here, although you can definitely see the resistance here. So there's reasons to expect that, hey, we may go lower here, but it's just still a little, it's not a 100% sure thing. It's still risky. It does take off, kind of bounces back sideways here, and you get a clear 2 legs back to the EMA and trend line, and then prices turn down, you get a second entry short. Looks like my channel has moved a little bit. This should have been like so. Excuse me again, my allergies are bothering me again. But anyway, you get 2 legs back right here. This trend line is not really in place, but it's a second entry. Clearly 2 legs back to the EMA. Fairly decent signal bar. I like going short there. Yeah, it is in the middle of the range here, but with this thing dropping down and 2 legs back to the EMA, if it breaks lower there, you'll probably get a scalp. It may not continue to go lower, but you'll at least get a scalp out of it. But then it comes back and confirms the trend line and actually breaks higher again, then turns down. You could trade that on the engulfing bar or wait till it closes. That lower high, it's also a second entry short, because you can count this both ways. I mean, there's at least 3 bars up, kind of headed up there. 2 of them are more sideways, but this one, they're making higher highs each time, so I think you could count that as a leg and then the second leg. If you didn't want to count this, then your second entry would be here, and you'd probably skip that trade. This thing drops on down, gets closed outside new low, and then you get 2 legs back, but unfortunately signal bar is too bullish. If that was a bearish signal bar, I wouldn't be afraid to go short there. You get a lower high here, but it looks really congested. And you can see the midline across there held once, and it's actually held again. If it breaks lower, it's probably going to the low side, but I just think it's too risky. And of course it does bounce here. I don't see anything. You want to try to either get long, or this actually breaks higher before it drops down and then comes back again. So I just don't think you can trade that. It's too close to the highs here, and you wouldn't want to really trade that on the engulfing bar. Breaks out the high side, fails, no setup, and then it comes back down and bounces off the lows. And we've tested that 1, 2, 3. This is like the 4th time, so easily a triple test or better. So if it breaks above that, go with it. We get up here, we break out, fail, then get a lower high. This one looks congested to me. I wasn't crazy about it. But then you get a break higher here that fails and turns down. So again, I like going short on the engulfing bar. You can't go short down here. It's right into support, and that'll probably fail, which you see it breaks out and fails. I actually like that one to try to go long. It's a second, you could still call that a second entry because this looks congested like a double top, and there's 1 leg correction, second leg. So to me that looks like a second entry long. It is a little aggressive, but a lot of times those are important lows, or if it fails out the high side, they're important highs. And you can see that was a fairly important low. We ended up going lower, but if you can catch that trade, and ride it up. Let's just say you ride it up to the first bar out that closes outside and it gets a break below. That would be right there. That's 7 points basically. $350 on 7 points. But if you catch it down here, I don't think you may catch a runner there still. It's close. But you run up, you get to close outside, move to a new high, and then you're just testing along. This looks like a repeat pattern really of something similar we had back here. But anyway, I just don't see anything across there you can trade, and then the bottom falls out of it. And it runs straight down, breaks out, fails. There was a high or low right here. I didn't mark it, but you could take that trade. By the time it sets up, it's congested, and that's the first close outside, and it does close below. So for that reason, I don't believe I would take that high or low when it breaks higher. If you did, it works, but it probably would have scared the bejeebies out of you because it looks like you're going to get stopped out. It looks like it's going to be a trap, and then it doesn't. But that's why I tell you don't play around with your trades once you're in your trade. Especially if you're sim trading, just put your stop where it goes. Let the trade play out. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, and because you'd be surprised how many times they'll try to scare you out and run you out, and you survive, only to see prices go exactly where you're thinking. They didn't necessarily go where I was thinking here because I thought maybe this fake breakout would fail and we'd get back in the range again. But it's still a easy scalp. And be good for I mean, it is a high or low and easy. I wouldn't say easy because it does kind of look like you might get stopped out here, but it ends up working out. So if you took it, great. If you didn't, I just think you got to kind of avoid that congestion for now. Comes back, it's just kind of bouncing along. There is this is not a second entry, but it's clearly 2 legs back after a leg down, so it's probably the center of pattern, and we'll get another leg down. I don't think you want to necessarily go short there. You could call that a second entry short, but it's right into this support. If you have enough room, maybe you take that trade. Let's just see. I don't think there's enough room. Yeah, see, it comes up. It's only 5 ticks there. I mean, it could go on down and give you that 5th tick or 6th tick that you need, but I just don't think it's worth risking. And of course, it breaks out and fails again. This time it's an inside bar, so you can't take it. But then you get a higher low up here, and it's 5 ticks. It doesn't really break lower, but it's a higher low. You can see the high is lower than the last one. So if it breaks above that, you're expecting it to come back to at least the trend line. We might get back in the range and go higher. So that's probably worth risking that 5 ticks over. I did mark it green. There's some things to be. There's a little bit of resistance across here, but you can see we made a higher high than we made the whole time. It looks like a short trap setting up there to me, and of course it does run back up. And you actually have a 2-legged correction here back to the trend line with a fairly decent signal bar, but it doesn't break lower on this chart. So on this chart, it's not a second entry. It's a hidden second entry short. If you went to what that means basically is if you went to a slightly smaller chart, you would see a first entry there and a second entry here. It's a little more advanced, so if you don't just automatically start doing that. You really need to know what you're doing because you'll see some hidden second entries that don't work. But that's clearly 2 legs back to the trend line. A little ways away from the EMA. You do get your close outside a new high. There's a lot of reasons to like that trade right there, but you need to know what you're doing. So I did mark it green. You can see it drops. It turns out to be a really nice trade. And then you just get a first entry here. It's right at the support resistance line again. Then you get an inside bar. I just skip that. Of course, it does run on down, and then we're just chopping sideways. But we have this trend down, and this is the first break, and we actually get 2 legs back to where, of all places, the main trend line again. So there is room to get out before coming back down here. So take that trade. Then you get 2 legs down, and it bounces. And this one's tempting to take here too. It's clearly 2 legs down. They look like they're pretty close to being measured, perfect measured legs. and you can see we're real close. And this bar is only 5 ticks again, but it's just not bullish enough. If you had a little bit more bullish bar there, by all means take it. And it runs all the way back to the top. No setup to go short. Corrects first entry and then second entry. This one looks a lot like one we saw earlier. We only have one leg up, so you might get another one. And so I like that trade right there. I went ahead and marked it. Odds are that we're probably going to bounce back up to the highs if it. And the other reason I like this is that measured move across there. You can see we did push lower momentarily, but we've came across there and tested that a few times here, and then came back to the high, made a higher high, and now we're making a higher low, and it is finding support along that same measured move, and it's a second entry with a good signal bar. Odds are we'll probably get another similar leg to this one, and then it turns back down. I don't like that signal bar. It looks congested there with the doji and the sideways bar. Of course, it runs all the way down, bounces and turns back down. Again, I don't see anything really right in here that looks tempting enough to me either way, long or short, especially now that we have a break and a move to a new low. It ends up going lower, but then you know that takes us into the news item up here from 1 o'clock. So, and I felt it was probably safe to get back in about, what we got here? Probably 115, 116. Just whenever it starts to, when this settles down, starts to get back to normal, and even though we had a fairly strong rally there for a minute, you can see we just kind of come back to normal and kind of get wound up. And then we're just chopping along here. I don't see anything that interests me there either. There is a break lower. Actually, I think this breaks higher, pulls back, then comes back up again. So once again, you can't really take that. Runs up, comes back here, and we're just chopping higher here. This is a failure. Notice you got a first entry, second entry, but it doesn't set up where you would want one. You need one off of this trend line somewhere. So just let it go and see what happens. And it just keeps chopping higher here. There's a couple of opens above the EMA right there and right there that would have worked for those asking about those. And then it finally turns down. It comes all the way back to the trend line again, breaks higher above that, runs back up again. This is just a first entry. I think it's just risky. If you try to enter there on a first entry, you'll get burned. Turns back down, bounces again. That channel is clearly in play, but you can't trade it with a. Basically, that's just a pure doji right there. It looks like it closes dead center, and it closes right where it opens. So, and we're still in that little down channel, so you really can't go long there. But it does get a break, move to a new low. Where does it bounce? Right off. Well, you wouldn't have that trend line there. It kind of sets it up, and then it pushes higher, and it comes back, and it confirms that right here. And that also gives you, this is basically a double top, so it gives you a first entry, pullback, second entry. So I like going long if it breaks above that little 3-bar matching high. Usually it'll take off there. It does come back momentarily and test it one more time. So now you got triple test across there, and it's 2-bar matching high. So I put my, you're basically what you're trading here is a failure. So it'd be a continuation pattern, and you are looking for a new high here. And we may be headed back to the high of the range, which is actually where we went to before this was over. But notice the new low, first entry, second entry. So when it breaks above the red bar, it's a failure. And the fact that it set the trend line up here, confirmed it here, and just further confirmed it here, I think that's worth trading. It is a little aggressive, but We're going into 230. It's real close. It's a little aggressive, but I still like it. So I marked it green. It depends on your situation, how good you are reading the chart, and so forth. So uh, there it is. A little bit better day than yesterday as far as setups. Um, really, after 1 o'clock, there wasn't much going on. There's just a couple of trades here, and that's it. So, uh, yeah, that's going to do it for today. So, I don't see anything else on here that's really catches my interest that would be anything worth talking about at the moment. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap it up and get this thing posted and uploaded. So, anyway, I hope you had a good trading day. We'll be back again tomorrow. Believe it or not, tomorrow's Thursday. I don't know where the time's going. Um, and that'll wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. Most of you already know that, but if you're new, I only do them Monday through Thursday. So, um, anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next